Advertising, a paid activity from an identified source, is known to everyone and nowadays to a greater extent to all consumer classes. Result, it is most often believed that whatever shown in TVCs are way far from the reality and hypothetically created to build salience around the brand. Does this insight have got anything to do with the advertising brief, once given to the agency people to come up with the most intricate part of it, the message? It makes me wonder, often is advertising or any form of communication a scientific approach to build a brand from scratch? Or is it an act of digging realities present around us and giving justification for the brand purchase or to be bought, having followed a roadmap? Let's begin the session keeping in mind what the advertising will trigger or spark to an action in consumers requires the marketer to make a complete tour of the strategy and foundation before arriving at the advertising platform. Thus we can help the creative people to build that connection in advertisement that truly works. Otherwise advertising will no longer be viewed in proximity to reality, as nowadays it looks like, where viewers just wait to get over it. We often see people clamoring for out-of-the-box thinking ability. Does it mean to look out for one who goes beyond the box? Or does it mean to entrust one who looks into the box from outside? You will soon find the latter may stand more unsteady. Most of the time, people fail here to acknowledge that advertising is inside the box thinking and allow too much freedom on their strategy element, while exhibit enough control on creative execution. It should be rather reverse: control the strategy, not the execution. Advertising is indeed a balance between freedom and control, and the first step toward allowing freedom on creative execution is to let your agency people write the brief in their own words, in their creative formats, so as to help them own the brief and believe in it right from the beginning. Of course, the marketer has all freedom of choice to debate on every word written in advertising brief to ensure the brief aligns to the brand strategy. When one talks about brief, must carry in his mind that a good brief should actually be brief, where the role of the brief is to create the right box, enough room to move but correct direction that defines the problem. The smaller is the brief, the bigger is the idea. It should have single objective, single TG well defined, one main benefit and a single reason to believe. It will not be wrong to say that briefing to advertising agency comes much later, after the marketer writes down the brand strategy and decides upon the advertising platform. We often complicate our lives in brand jargons and marketing lingos. Rather, we can easily describe the brand strategy in simple English. The brand strategy comprises of 3 P's, namely plan, positioning, and placement. Let's get to know all the 3 in one liner. We keep a long-term foresight where the brand can reach finally. It's nothing but a vision. We occupy ourselves in specific assignments to get us on our way. It's nothing but the mission. We arrive at certain things that the brand needs to achieve. They are nothing but the objectives. We adopt different approaches to meet these objectives. These are strategies. Till now we are into planning part, and hereafter things transpire into second P. Then, we look out for a segment of population who will accept the brand, the TG. We want the segment of population to take specific actions, the result. We then write what to say and how to say to trigger the actions, the message. We also reinforce that we are different than others, the differentiating elements. Till now we have worked upon positioning part, and hereafter we'll land on the third P. Then, we create the stimulus in form of audio-visual promotions to take on the message. It's nothing but the communication. We put it there where the TG will most likely face the communication and take desired action. It's nothing but the media. These 3 P's help in building the brand foundation and arriving on the advertising platform and are critical to understand in the advertising planning process. Building the brand foundation starts with the 3 most critical questions. Who do we want to sell to? What are we selling to them? Why should they believe in us? We will now discuss a bit more detail on each of these most critical questions. Building the brand foundation starts with the most critical question: who do we want to sell to? The fact underlies, everything starts and ends with the consumer in mind. Spreading resources across population never get to see the full impact, as well as it is cost prohibitive. Therefore, marketer needs to tightly define the TG and others who do not fit to the criteria. Consumer connect with the brand provides awesome opportunity to understand key consumer segments from the perspective of their behaviors, attitudes, psychographics and demographics, giving a distinct definition to each consumer segment. It also builds an understanding of consumer untapped areas through identifying the gaps in providing solution against the need, as well as it brings key consumer insights. Tapping into these insights gives permission to enter into her mind and establish a connecting point to get her listen the brand message. Second question that certainly arises from the perspective of where the brand fits in the life of its consumers: what are we selling to them? I cannot count the number of times I have heard this: sell the solution, not just your product. People do not want to buy a quarter-inch drill. Instead, they want to buy a quarter-inch hole. Does it signify to look at each possible layer of benefit? Yes, indeed, and to come up with the best one to focus upon. Marketer may look into the brand hierarchy from every possible viewpoint to reach the most motivating consumer benefit which the brand uniquely owns, starting with the brand attributes, which are tangible qualities of the product benefits, which is the solution that it delivers and what consumer drives home with, and the emotional benefit, that is, what consumer feels about the brand. Third and last question that holds equal importance to write the positioning line: why should they believe in us? This calls for an action to figure out the core, RTB, that is reason to believe, rationally conceivable and emotionally connecting with consumers, as well as strong enough to trigger an action. What is critical to understand here that RTB does not mean one stands still and speaks what consumers already know, but rather he should make sure where he is allowed to go. If there is disconnect, consumers will simply reject the message. The brand foundation thus sets up the brand essence and gives the marketer the positioning for the brand. The brand essence is the description that defines the brand, and to be more precise, the guiding vision of the brand. For example, what the world knows Volvo for, safety, and the world knows Mercedes for, luxury. Now, we land on deciding upon the advertising platform which constructs the task of an advertising agency, as well as enable the agency to build a communication that works. Deciding upon the advertising platform comes exactly before briefing to the agency, and involves the marketer to answer only 3 basic questions. They are simple to understand but very hard to construct. They may sound trivial but indispensable in nature. They demand tremendous focus, for if they are found untrue or biased, advertising will fail to establish a connection with its audiences. The first of these are, what is expected from the advertising? It indeed sounds simple, but to draft an answer to the point, a marketer requires making a tour to every facet of the brand since beginning, be it revisiting the guiding vision of the brand, be it tracking all assignments what the brand has been carrying so far, be it researching where has the brand reached now and how it got here, be it analyzing what has worked so far and what has not, be it breathing within the brand hierarchy, and be it seeing the brand through consumers' lenses. Consumers are not different to marketers, as we all are at times consumers of one or the other things, but fact underlines, marketers may be biased whereas consumers are not. So it demands the marketer must go being honest, because being dishonest means he actually ends up talking with himself. If the first question aims at building a connection with consumers, the second must attempt to trigger the action. What do we want people to do? I restate, everything starts and ends with consumers in mind. The answer has a direct link with a brand strategy where the marketer needs to revisit the brand funnel to understand consumers' buying process and culminate where he can apply the pressure within the funnel. A brand funnel comprises of 6 stages in consumers' buying process, starting with awareness, familiarity, consideration, decision, repeat action, and ending at loyalty. The funnel, however, looks like a cone. A certain percentage of consumers go about one-time purchase, that is decision, and the rest of them move to the end of the cone, that is loyalty. The question calls for the marketer to arrive at where each consumer segment sitting immovable and figure out why. Thus, the marketer eventually lands on the last question: what do we want people to feel? The answer evolves by just putting own feet in the consumer's shoes. It is a starting point to contemplate where the consumer stands at present, and why she still stands here. What is that she wants to achieve with the brand moving to the next level, and is the brand living up to her expectation? The answer must establish the fact in consumers' mind driving them to move the next level, and tugging their hearts to tighten the connection. Advertising agency wants the marketer to frame the problem, which it is supposed to provide a creative solution for. What the advertising will trigger, or spark to an action in consumers, requires the marketer to make a complete tour of the strategy and foundation, before arriving on the advertising platform. This way he can help the creative people to build that connection in advertisement that truly works. Otherwise, advertising will no longer be viewed in proximity to reality, as nowadays it looks like, where viewers just wait to get over it.